When it comes to men's health, there's one question that almost everyone thinks about, but very few dare to ask out loud. What is the normal size? Is it length? Is it girth? And more importantly, how do you actually measure it the right way? For years, myths, locker room talk, and internet rumors have twisted the truth, leaving millions of men feeling insecure or simply confused. But today, we're cutting through all the noise. In this video, I'm going to break it down step by step. What science really says is normal, how to measure correctly at home, and why the numbers may not be what you expect. Let's start with an uncomfortable truth that affects more men than you might imagine. Studies have found that the majority of men feel some degree of insecurity about their size, even though over 95% fall within completely normal medical ranges. This creates a fascinating paradox. If almost everyone is normal, why do so many people feel inadequate? The answer lies in the gap between reality and perception. From a young age, many men are exposed to unrealistic portrayals that become mental benchmarks. Whether it's through adult entertainment or internet content, these distorted references create false standards that have nothing to do with actual human biology. Here's where science comes to the rescue. Medical researchers have conducted extensive studies involving tens of thousands of participants across different countries and ethnicities. These aren't small surveys or internet polls. These are rigorous scientific investigations published in respected medical journals. And what they found might surprise you. The largest comprehensive study of its kind examined data from nearly 15,000 men worldwide. The results showed that the average erect length measures approximately 13.2 centimeters, which translates to just over 5 inches. For circumference, the average came in at 11.5 centimeters, or about 4.5 inches around. But here's what's even more important than those averages. The normal range is much broader than most people realize. Between 90 and 95% of men measure between 10 and 16 centimeters in length. That's roughly 4 to 6 and 1/3 inches. If you fall anywhere within this range, you are statistically and medically normal. Now, let's address the extremes, because understanding the full spectrum helps put everything in perspective. At the lower end, medical professionals define what's called micropenis as anything measuring less than 7.5 centimeters when fully stretched. At the upper extreme, anything over 24 centimeters is considered macropenis. Both of these conditions are extremely rare genetic variations that affect less than 1% of the population. These aren't goals to aspire to or standards to judge yourself against. They're simply the statistical outliers that help define the normal range where nearly everyone falls. Yet somehow, many men have convinced themselves they're below average when they're actually perfectly typical. Part of this confusion comes from measurement errors. Believe it or not, most men measure themselves incorrectly, which leads to inaccurate results and unnecessary anxiety. It's like trying to weigh yourself on a broken scale. No matter how many times you check, you'll never get reliable information. Some common mistakes include starting measurements from the wrong point, not accounting for body fat that can hide length, measuring at inappropriate times when blood flow is reduced, or using techniques that don't reflect medical standards. These errors can make normal anatomy appear smaller than it actually is. Medical professionals use specific protocols to ensure accurate measurements. For research purposes, they typically use something called flaccid stretched length, which correlates very closely with erect measurements but allows for standardized testing conditions. Here's the correct technique that urologists use. First, you need to be standing upright in a warm room. Use a rigid ruler or measuring tape, never a flexible one that can compress. Place the ruler on the top side, pressing gently but firmly against the pubic bone. This is crucial because it accounts for any fat pad that might obscure the base, while flaccid, gently stretch forward to the full natural length without forcing it. Measure from the pubic bone to the tip. For girth measurements, use a flexible measuring tape or piece of string around the thickest part of the shaft. Mark where it overlaps, then measure that length with a ruler. This gives you the circumference. The timing of these measurements matters too. Your body responds dramatically to temperature, stress, and arousal levels. Cold environments can cause significant shrinkage, sometimes reducing apparent size by up to 50%. Anxiety has similar effects. That's why comparing yourself in a cold bathroom mirror to someone who's fully aroused under professional lighting conditions is completely meaningless. Speaking of professional conditions, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Adult entertainment and its impact on male self-perception. The performers in these productions aren't randomly selected men. They're specifically chosen for having dimensions well above the statistical average. But even then, the illusion is enhanced through camera angles, lighting techniques, and in some cases, digital manipulation. An investigation by a major men's health publication discovered that some adult content is actually edited after filming to digitally enhance proportions. Your brain processes these images as reality, but they're often as artificial as special effects in superhero movies. This creates a psychological trap where normal anatomy appears inadequate when compared to carefully curated and artificially enhanced content. It's like comparing your everyday appearance to a magazine cover model who's been professionally photographed, lit, and digitally retouched. The impact of these false comparisons goes far beyond simple curiosity. Research shows that men who develop anxiety about their dimensions often experience decreased confidence, relationship difficulties, and even avoidance of intimate situations. Some seek unnecessary medical procedures that carry real risks, even though they already possess completely normal anatomy. Interestingly, when researchers survey women about their preferences, the connection, communication, and overall relationship satisfaction. This all. Studies consistently show that the unimportant compared to factors like emotional results don't align with male insecurities. A vast majority of women rank size as relatively disconnect between male anxiety and female preferences, suggests that much of the concern is internally generated rather than based on actual partner feedback. Men are essentially worse than they imagine. But understanding the statistics lying about something that matters far less to their partners and psychology is only part of the solution. In the next section, we'll explore practical, you look, feel, and perform strategies that can actually improve how regardless of your starting measurements. Because while you can't change your genetics, there are scientifically proven methods to optimize what you're working with. We'll cover everything from simple lifestyle changes that can add visible length to exercises that improve blood flow and function, to hormone optimization techniques that can enhance overall performance and satisfaction. Stay tuned, because what's coming next could genuinely transform how you think about and approach your own health and confidence. Now let's dive into the practical strategies that can genuinely make a difference in how you look, feel, and perform. These aren't gimmicks or quick fixes you'll find in spam emails. These are evidence-based approaches that address the real factors affecting male anatomy and function. The first strategy might surprise you because it has nothing to do with your anatomy directly. It's about what's surrounding it. Body fat distribution plays a massive role in visible length, and this is something you have complete control over. When fat accumulates around the pubic area, it essentially buries part of the base, making everything appear shorter than it actually is. Think of it like a tree trunk partially buried in snow. The tree hasn't shrunk, but less of it is visible above the surface. Medical studies have documented that losing just 2 inches from your waistline can reveal up to an additional 1.5 inches of visible length. That's not growth, that's simply uncovering what was always there. This happens because excess abdominal fat creates what doctors call a suprapubic fat pad. As this fat layer thickens, it pushes forward and essentially swallows the base. The anatomy itself remains unchanged, but the visible portion decreases significantly. By reducing overall body fat through proper nutrition and exercise, you're not just improving your health, you're optimizing your appearance. The second strategy focuses on vascular health. And this is where things get really interesting. Your anatomy is fundamentally a vascular structure, meaning it depends entirely on blood flow for size, firmness, and function. Unlike muscles that you can strengthen through repetition, this tissue responds to improved circulation and cardiovascular health. Here's what actually works for enhancing blood flow naturally. Cardiovascular exercise increases overall circulation and heart health, which directly translates to better tissue perfusion. Activities like brisk walking, cycling, swimming, or any exercise that gets your heart rate elevated will improve blood delivery throughout your entire body, including your most sensitive areas. Dietary choices play a crucial role too. Foods rich in nitrates, like leafy greens, beets, and pomegranates, help your body produce nitric oxide, a compound that relaxes blood vessels and improves flow. Dark chocolate, watermelon, and citrus fruits contain similar beneficial compounds. These aren't magic foods, but they support the biological processes that maintain healthy function. Hydration is often overlooked but absolutely essential. Proper blood flow requires adequate fluid volume, and even mild dehydration can reduce circulation efficiency. Most men don't drink nearly enough water throughout the day, which affects everything from energy levels to tissue health. Sleep quality deserves special attention because this is when your body performs most of its repair and maintenance functions. During deep sleep, testosterone levels peak, growth hormone is released, and blood flow patterns optimize tissue health. Men who consistently get poor sleep often notice decreased morning function, which is actually a warning sign of declining vascular health. The third strategy involves targeted exercises that most men have never heard of, despite their proven effectiveness. We're talking about pelvic floor exercises, often dismissed as something only women need to worry about. This couldn't be further from the truth. Your pelvic floor muscles control blood flow, rigidity, and even climax control. These muscles can be strengthened just like any other muscle group, and the results are often dramatic. The basic technique involves contracting the muscles you'd use to stop urination midstream, holding for several seconds, then releasing. Start with 10 repetitions, 3 times daily, gradually increasing duration and frequency. What makes these exercises particularly effective is that they target the exact muscles responsible for trapping blood during arousal. Stronger pelvic floor muscles mean better blood retention, which translates to improved size, firmness, and endurance. Many men notice changes within just a few weeks of consistent practice. The fourth strategy addresses nearly 40-something that affects % of men over age 40, hormone optimization. Testosterone isn't just about muscle mass and energy levels. It directly impacts tissue health, blood flow, libido, and overall function. When testosterone declines, everything else follows. Natural testosterone optimization starts with lifestyle factors. Heavy compound exercises like squats, deadlifts, and bench presses stimulate hormone production more effectively than isolation exercises. Getting adequate zinc through foods like oysters, beef, and pumpkin seeds supports healthy testosterone levels. Reducing alcohol consumption, managing stress, and maintaining healthy body weight all contribute to optimal hormone balance. For men with clinically low testosterone, medical intervention might be necessary. This requires proper testing and supervision by qualified healthcare providers. Blood tests should measure total testosterone, free testosterone, and related hormones to get a complete picture. Self-medication or using unregulated supplements can be dangerous and counterproductive. The fifth strategy is psychological, but don't underestimate its importance. Performance anxiety creates a vicious cycle where worry leads to poor function, which increases worry, which worsens function. Breaking this cycle requires understanding that temporary setbacks are completely normal and don't indicate permanent problems. Stress management techniques like meditation, deep breathing exercises, or regular physical activity help reduce anxiety levels. Communication with partners about concerns and expectations often relieves pressure and improves overall satisfaction for both people involved. Many men benefit from counseling, either individually or with their partners. A qualified therapist can help address underlying anxiety, unrealistic expectations, or relationship issues that might be affecting confidence and performance. Here's something crucial that most men don't realize. The correlation between overall health and sexual function is incredibly strong. Men who maintain healthy cardiovascular systems, balanced hormones, appropriate body weight, and good mental health consistently report better function and satisfaction regardless of their measurements. This means that focusing on comprehensive health improvement often yields better results than obsessing over dimensions. When you optimize your cardiovascular health, hormone levels, body composition, and mental well-being, everything else tends to improve naturally. The takeaway isn't that measurements don't matter at all, but rather that they matter far less than most men believe. What actually determines satisfaction and confidence is how well everything works together. Blood flow, hormone balance, physical fitness, mental health, and relationship quality. In our final section, we'll address the elephant in the room, enhancement procedures, and whether they're ever worth considering. We'll examine the real risks, realistic outcomes, and help you make informed decisions based on science rather than marketing promises. Because while natural optimization should always come first, understanding all your options helps you make choices that align with your actual needs rather than manufactured insecurities. Let's tackle the controversial topic that nobody wants to discuss openly, but everyone searches for privately: surgical enhancement procedures. This is where hope meets reality, and unfortunately, where marketing often overshadows medical truth. Understanding the facts about these procedures could save you from making decisions you'll regret for the rest of your life. First, let's address the uncomfortable reality about who's actually seeking these procedures. Research from leading urology departments reveals that the vast majority of men pursuing surgical enhancement already measure within completely normal ranges. They're not addressing a medical problem. They're trying to fix a psychological one with a scalpel. Here's what that looks like in practice. A perfectly healthy man with average dimensions becomes convinced through constant comparison and media exposure that he needs to be larger. He researches procedures, convinces himself that surgery will solve his confidence issues, and undergoes an irreversible procedure that carries serious risks. Months later, studies show that up to 40% of these men remain dissatisfied despite technically successful surgeries. Why does this happen? Because the root issue wasn't physical to begin with. It was psychological. Surgery changed their anatomy, but not their mindset. They're still comparing themselves to unrealistic standards, still feeling inadequate, still searching for validation through measurements, rather than addressing the underlying insecurity that drove them to surgery in the first place. Let's examine the most common procedures and what they actually involve. Length enhancement surgery, typically involves cutting the suspensory ligament that anchors everything to the pubic bone. This allows more of the internal portion to extend outward. Sounds simple, right? The reality is far more complex. This ligament serves important structural functions. When it's severed, you lose the upward angle that many consider aesthetically pleasing. The result often appears to hang lower rather than project forward. Additionally, without this support structure, stability during intimate moments can be compromised. Many men report that while they gained length on a ruler, the functional result was disappointing. Girth enhancement procedures involve injecting fat cells harvested from other parts of your body or inserting synthetic materials under the skin. The fat injection approach sounds natural, but your body often reabsorbs much of the transferred fat within months, leaving uneven results. Some men require multiple procedures to maintain their results, if they achieve them at all. Synthetic materials carry their own risks. Foreign objects inserted under delicate skin can cause infections, scarring, or immune reactions. Some materials can shift position over time, creating asymmetrical appearances that require corrective surgery. In worst-case scenarios, severe complications can result in permanent damage or loss of function. Remember that question you typed into Google at 2 a.m.? You now have the real answer, backed by science instead of speculation. You're normal, you're measuring correctly, and those insecurities were never based on reality. Focus on optimizing your health, not chasing numbers on a ruler. Your confidence doesn't come from measurements. It comes from understanding the truth about your body and taking care of it properly.